All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're looking at something, well, pretty out there. A vision for our future cities. I want you to picture a capital city, not built on a mountain, but carved deep inside one. A city that leaves the incredible Himalayan peaks totally untouched. This is the vision of Dharwas.
So the whole idea behind Dharwas really kicks off with this one simple question. And it's a question that completely flips our script on urban development, right? Especially when we're talking about some of the most fragile, most beautiful places on Earth. It's basically asking us, what if, instead of building out and up, we started building down?
All right, so let's get into what this actually means. Dharwas is envisioned as a future capital for India's Himachal Pradesh. But, and this is the key part, it's totally different from any city you've ever seen. We're not just talking about moving some government buildings around. Nope. This is about completely rethinking what a city even is.
So forget everything you know about mountain towns. You know, the winding roads, the houses built into the hillsides. The vision here is for something completely different. A perfectly flat, super modern metropolis. They call it a sky city, and it's carved right out of the mountain's bedrock. And the whole point of doing this? To leave the forests and peaks up top exactly as they are. Totally pristine.
Okay, now here's one of the most mind-bending parts of this whole concept. The city's altitude? It's at 0 meters, relative to sea level. Now I know what you're thinking. How is that possible in the Himalayas? Well, it's not on the coast. This is achieved by digging deep, deep down. It basically turns the mountain's height from a problem you have to solve into a resource you can use.
And, there's a really solid logic behind all this. When you go underground, the city is naturally insulated by all that rock. What does that mean? It means you get this incredibly stable, totally climate-proof environment. You need way less energy for heating and cooling. It's a design that's all about working with the mountain's geology, not fighting against it.
Okay, but the big question is, how on earth could you actually build something like this? I mean, we're talking about carving a city deep inside the Himalayas. Well, the whole blueprint is based on some pretty incredible, next-level engineering concepts made just for this kind of crazy environment.
So the city wouldn't just be sitting in some big empty cave. No, it would actually be built into the mountain itself. Think of it like this. Using what they call geostabilized systems, the buildings would be anchored directly into the rock. The foundations would be designed to actually move and adapt with any earthquakes in the region. The mountain itself literally becomes the skeleton of the city.
And what about power? How do you run a whole city underground? Well, Dharwas is designed to be totally self-sustaining, completely off-grid. It would pull heat from deep within the earth using geothermal tech. It would store energy from the melting snow above, and it would capture sunlight from the high-altitude peaks. It's a perfect closed-loop system. It makes everything it needs right there.
So you can see this is way more than just a cool engineering project. It's imagined as a real, living, breathing city, a global hub, just tucked away inside a mountain range. But that brings up the next big question, right? What would it actually be like to live there? Now, this is a really important point. Dharwas isn't designed to replace the old capital Shimla, not at all. The idea is a dual capital model. So the historic city of Shimla stays as the cultural and heritage center. Meanwhile, Dharmala becomes its modern partner, the forward-looking hub for government, for climate science, for planning for the future. Of course, a global hub needs to be connected to the rest of the world, so it needs an airport. But you're not going to flatten a pristine mountaintop for that, are you? No way. Instead, Dharwas International would be built right into the cliffs. We're talking underground runways and terminals, all designed for the clean, quiet hydrogen and electric jets of the future. Getting around inside a city that's built vertically, well, that's a whole different ballgame. You can't just pave a bunch of streets and avenues. You need a transit system that can move people just as easily up and down as it can sideways.
And the solution they've imagined is called the Aqua Line. Think of it as the world's first real mountain subway. We're talking fully autonomous, driverless trains. They'd be maglev trains, floating on magnets for insane speeds, and they'd shoot through these vacuum-assisted tunnels. But here's the coolest part. These trains wouldn't just go horizontally. They would travel up and down these huge vertical shafts connecting every single level of the city. It's like an elevator and a subway all in one.
But all this incredible technology, it's not just tech for tech's sake. The whole vision is driven by something much deeper. At its core, there's a really powerful new philosophy about how we as humans relate to the natural world.
And that philosophy is summed up in this one key principle: a non-extractive urban presence. What does that mean? It's a promise. an absolute commitment that human progress doesn't have to come at the expense of nature. It means zero surface sprawl. Full stop.
There's a quote from the original concept that just nails this idea perfectly. It's a total shift in thinking, right? We're moving away from the idea of conquering a landscape and toward the idea of coexisting inside of it. It's about finding our home within the planet's geology, not just on top of it.
And lest you think this sounds like living in a dark, damp cave, think again. Life inside is designed to be incredibly human-centric. The city is built around walkable public spaces and a focus on wellness. They've imagined advanced lighting systems that would perfectly mimic the natural cycle of sunlight, and the architecture itself would be bioresponsive, meaning it could actually adapt to the needs of the people living in it. Pretty amazing.
Okay, so let's pull back for the big picture here. Because a city like Dharwas isn't just imagined as a new capital for a region. It's seen as a place with a major role to play on the world stage, especially when it comes to our planet's future.
I mean, just think about it. By its very design, Dharwas will be the perfect hub for tackling some of our biggest global challenges. It'd be a world-leading center for climate science, especially for studying the cryosphere, all the ice and snow on Earth. It would be the headquarters for pioneering new kinds of underground engineering, and it could even be a neutral meeting ground for international climate talks.
When you boil it all down, Dharwas is really proposed as a symbol for a totally different kind of future. A future where a nation's strength isn't measured by how much land it can conquer or develop, but by its foresight, its wisdom, and its choice to practice deliberate restraint for the good of the planet.
Now, we have to be clear about something. This is a thought experiment, a very long-range one. We're talking about a vision for the year 2100 or even later, so it's not something you're going to see in a policy proposal next week. Its purpose is to really stretch our imagination, to push the boundaries of what we think is even possible. And that really leaves us with one final massive question. Is an idea like Tahara a genuine blueprint for humanity's future? A way for us to thrive in the coming centuries? Or is it just a beautiful, impossible fantasy carved in stone? The answer we eventually come to, that might just define everything about our future on this planet.